Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And we are back.
Well, I'm glad, because we have a great guest coming up. Somebody I've known probably for about, I guess, how long have we known each other, Richard?
10, 12 years?
10, 12 years, something like that. A great friend of mine, and also very, very involved with the international community, has served at the Houston Association of Realtors for a couple of years as the chairman of the advisory group for international real estate, and also served as the chair for Texas Association of Realtors. So
that's right. Until the end of this month, actually.
I am good till the 31st, and then I'm
right.
expiring at that time. But anyway, he has a great wealth of information about working with international buyers and sellers. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
And you can say, you can do a shout out to Doris out there, let her know that you're thinking about her.
Hi, Doris.
Yeah, you're out there. That'll go. You get a lot of mileage out of that. Anyway, you are with Keller Williams, Greater Northwest,
right,
out there in the Highway 629 here, but you don't do a lot of your work out there necessarily.
Actually, I do a lot of about 60% of my business is from foreign nationals. The rest is from regular buyers who bought houses 5, 6, 7 years ago that are reselling it. No, they call me back.
No.
But my principal area where I work mostly is the Spring, Klein, Cypress, North Houston area.
No, you are originally from Puerto Rico.
Born and raised.
And when did you move to the U.S.?
We moved to Houston from.
Yeah.
We're going to make a long story short.
Yeah.
We came to Texas the long way around. In 1977, Doris and I packed our bags and moved to Little Rock, Arkansas. We brought the kids. Both Rick and Ruben were born in Puerto Rico. And we moved to Little Rock, Arkansas. We lived there for a couple of years, and then we had an opportunity to come down here because jobs. So we just sold the house there and moved to Houston in 1977, 75 to 77. And that was it. We've been here since 78.
And so you're thinking, oh, well, Houston, Texas, I think I'll go into real estate. You actually had a real job before.
Well, I was in the telecom industry for 33 years.
Oh, wow.
I got retired from United Telecom. And then at that time, I was working for a major manufacturer of telecommunications equipment. And they were going through a series of reductions in force and layoffs, and we knew the handwriting was on the wall, so I started to get my real estate license based on the fact that I heard somebody say, well, I got a friend of mine who works in the real estate. She's making pretty good money. So, click. And I decided to get my license. I left it inactive until I finally got the call from my boss. He says, hey, Richard, this is the day. You and 4,500 other people are getting laid off today.
Well, then I guess you couldn't take it personally then. Because
no, it was 4,999 on me.
Gosh.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And so you immediately sought out that, and then you've been very successful at doing it.
Absolutely. I mean, it was just one of those things that if I would have known that the real estate business was going to be so much fun, I was going to be so successful in it, I wouldn't have thought about it so long.
Yeah,
I would have jumped on it a longer time ago.
And you're doing exactly what I talk to agents about doing is find a niche. And you found a niche. It's an international community. You know how to deal with it. And you also deal with, I think, with AMPI.
Yes, I'm a member. Yeah,
tell me what that stands for again.
AMPI is in Spanish is Asociación Mexicana de Profesionales Inmobiliarios. It is the Mexican equivalent of the RNAR, our National Association of Realtors, at the national level. AMPI has a general directorate based in Mexico City, and then they have chapter or section presidents, which would be the equivalent of our state agencies or state associations and or our local associations. So I've been involved with those folks now for the last 5 years.
Yeah, and you've actually been responsible for actually having some of those dignitaries come visit us, not only in Austin, but here in Houston, things like that. And they're really interesting people.
That is correct. We had at the last Texas Association of Realtors convention, the state convention, which was in just a couple of months ago in September, we invited the actual president of AMPI, Marta Ramirez, and the two past presidents plus the incoming president, who, by the way, is going to get sworn in January 21st in Mexico City, and I have been invited. Well, actually, awesome. I'm required to go there because not only
performance.
I'm giving up the chair for the Texas Association of Realtors International Group, but I became the presidential liaison for National Association of Realtors, NAR's presidential liaison to AMPI.
See, I told you all he was qualified. This guy knows international real estate, and we.
And one of the things that's pretty interesting, I grew up in Mexico. I lived there obviously for 23 years. And it's amazing what we're seeing as far as that communication that we're now seeing back and forth between the Houston community and the Mexican community. There's also a big difference. In Mexico, real estate is not practiced the way it is practiced here. So it is completely different. We don't have the technology and systems in place that you can go and see some of those things. So it's pretty interesting to see some of those changes, and I imagine it's pretty interesting for you to be able to interface with them through HAR to show them some of the things that they can be doing.
Oh, exactly. In fact, we have had in February and just last month we had a group of AMPI members from Monterrey, Mexico, come in and do what we would call that like a 3-day internship. They actually would come and stay in our houses, and they would actually shadow us. We would give them presentations and overviews and seminars on how we conduct the business. We'd show them how to operate a super key. We show them how we put our signs. So we just give them a really good show of exactly how we run the business, and they go back with tons of ideas and knowledge. One of the guys that was in my house, he says, "I'm going to go back and start working a way out to be able to put these super lock boxes on my neighbors, on my clients' houses, because we don't do that over there."
Right.
And they just do it the old-fashioned way. You have to go to the real estate office to pick up the key, and then you have to go take it back. So it's very non-productive.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very inefficient.
Have they adopted an MLS of sorts?
Good question. They're frantically working to get one, and not just there's several cities that have their own independent databases, but they're not truly MLSs. What they're doing at the local and the national level is to try to mesh all those systems into one that they can truly call the MLS as we know it, because our MLS not only is the database of information, but it's also an explicit promise to pay. A cooperating realtor.
It's a cooperating. They offer compensation and cooperation.
Exactly. Yes. And that is a concept that is not widely known in Mexico.
And one of the things also, let's not go too far away. We're lucky to be in Houston because RHAR.com in Houston, you don't have that in a lot of places in the United States. Let's not even go international.
Shoot them an invoice, Rob.
Right.
Absolutely. The HAR.com is probably the most popular, most efficient, most reliable source of buyers and sellers to find properties.
Absolutely.
No question.
And there's other areas I've been to, other states, even the United States. You go there, they don't have that information. They don't have those databases. They don't have a single point to go to. They're still going through, quote unquote, the older times to go through. Now, Mexico's a little bit different, but we still struggle with that even in the United States.
But here, if they don't get it locally, they're going to go to the third-party aggregators, which is Zillow, Trulia, and things like that. And of course, we had Kurt Beardsley on, and we like Kurt and all that, but Zillow's information isn't always 100% accurate.
Right.
Especially those guesstimates.
Exactly.
But let me ask you, Richard, going from a consumer standpoint, when you've got a foreign national coming in for the first time, what's their biggest challenge coming here?
They have to understand, as realtors, we have a job to educate our buyers, and that's the hardest thing to do because they have a different set of expectations. They do not expect us to represent them. They think that we're working for the seller. And when we sit down, when we have a conversation with a potential buyer, we have to tell them who we're going to work for. We're working for you, Mr. Buyer. Our job is to help you find the right property. We're not working for the sellers. So that's one thing. The education is one. The other thing is showing them that you can actually buy a property here in the United States without major restrictions, unlike many other countries that will require a person to either be a resident or a national. Anybody can, from anywhere, can literally buy almost anything in the United States, in Texas and in Houston, and all they have to do is just plop down the cash.
And, and that's important you talk about that, in Mexico, a lot of times you have what they call a fideicomiso, which is sort of like a trust, in which a lot of times if you're a foreigner going to Mexico, especially if you're buying within some of the areas, I'm using Mexico as an example, within the perimeters of the beach areas, you don't necessarily own that property. You're putting it in what they call a trust, in which you're still paying for it, but you have a right to it for a certain period of time. And so a lot of times it's that education perspective.
You're bringing a good point because I've been getting a lot of questions. People are asking me, I thought that foreigners could not buy properties in Mexico, and that is really not true. It was until 1992, and then the Constitution was amended to allow foreigners to buy properties in Mexico. However, Mexican governments in their own way decided to restrict or call a restricted zone anything near the coast and or near the borders. And the coast would include the whole peninsula of Baja California is in the restricted zone.
Right.
It doesn't mean you cannot own it outright. What it means is that you can buy it outright. You have all the rights of ownership. The only thing is that you don't have the deed in your possession. The deed is held in a bank by a trust. And that's why it's called a trust, a fideicomiso. But you're actually the owner of the property, and you can dispose of it any way you want.
Now, does that convey to like the heirs and things like that?
Yes, you can convey it to your heirs. You can renew it. You can renew that trust every 50 years, so you can do whatever you want with it.
When you have
my wife's Mexican, I don't worry about it.
Very good.
When you have buyers coming in, do you you talked about education on helping them understand that you're representing them. Do you find that they have an understanding of our credit system?
No, that's another thing we have to educate them on. They usually do not believe that they can get a loan, but there are several banks out there and entities that offer foreign national loans. In most cases, they have to come up with about a 25 or 30% down payment, which is not unusual, but they do qualify. As long as they can provide that they have proof or show evidence that they have some sort of an income and ability to pay the mortgage, they'll get it.
And today, one of the things that has happened is there's different types of foreign national loans. You have the foreign national loan that individuals are coming in town to buy a property but still maintain their primary residency somewhere abroad. You have those individuals that are being transferred with a company, and so they get another type of loan, which is usually more just like a conventional loan that you're going to see out there. So you do have different aspects, and it's a matter a lot of times training and educating on those, about what those look like, how those do. You know, there's no such thing in a lot of your Latin American countries as credit. There's no really such thing. There's no credit score. There's no credit scoring model. And so a lot of times now, you'd be surprised though, most individuals who come to the United States from Latin America, I don't care if it's from Brazil or Peru or anywhere else from there, they understand the ability to have to create credit though. Where they struggle with is where do I start? Because they get a lot of false information.
So it's a foreign concept to them.
However, keep it in mind. Good pun. That's a great pun. But keep in mind, though, that most people that come in here, there's 40%. 40% of the foreign buyers have the cash, and they plop the cash, and they'll transfer the funds from their local banks directly into the, say, title company, escrow.
Well, we speak cash, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
So
shameless plug, if you need help establishing credit, I know a company called Improve My Credit USA that can help you do that.
I've heard of that.
I've heard of them before as well.
Shoot them an invoice.
yeah. Let's see how that works. Inside joke.
Yeah, I paper them on our office wall.
So, what banks do those types of loans?
BBVA Compass is one of the world's most known, and there's a couple of other ones, Spirit of Texas, and one that used to be called Oasis Bank, that they have done mortgages for foreign nationals. Yeah. And they also do, some of them do commercials.
And Willow Bend Mortgage has a lot of opportunities from that area as well, by the way.
Well,
shoot them an invoice.
Well, I did not know that.
Yes, absolutely. You know, one of the things is the foreign national loans are really out there. I mean, your big banks do offer them, but also there's a lot of opportunities out there. There's just a lot of different programs and products out there, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's a matter of determining who's buying, who's selling, and then what fits best. But guess what we're up against right now, Rob?
Well, we got to pay for the show.
We got to pay for it every once in a while. So time flies when you're having fun. I want to get back into this conversation, but I also know that we're going to go a break right now. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Jackknife has old Maggie Heath, baby, and it keeps it out of sight. You know when that shark bites with its